All right, it is right at 6 o'clock. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. One of my life's mottos is to be a good steward of other people's time. And we know that everybody is busy and has plenty to occupy our time and space. And so I want to make sure that I make good use of the time that you've given me to share this information. Um, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, I want you to do the best that you can to collect any questions that you have. Write them down, take a note of them, so that at the end of the presentation, we can entertain any questions that you may have. The information is going to be very straightforward, but I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence or um, rob anybody of an opportunity to fully explore what the program is. So I don't want to share the information without giving you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. And please feel free to use the chat feature to place any questions that you may have as well. So if you're in a place where you're not able to write anything down or anything like that, you can use the chat feature. And again, at the end of the presentation, I'll come back and I'll try to recollect as many questions as we possibly can. If you're on the call tonight, you are exploring interest in credit for prior learning. And I'm so excited that you're doing so because it is a very hidden gem. Because as adult learners who are going back to get their college degree, which many of you, if you're on this call, you fit that description, that's what you're doing. And one of the things that happens a lot is we go back to school and we typically have to go through coursework and classes in which the information becomes redundant because as adults, we've already learned it in other aspects, whether it be job related, life experience, whatever the case may be. And what Credit for Prior Learning does is allows you to take advantage of that life experience and use it towards your degree. So to give you a more descriptive definition of prior learning, credit for prior learning. Credit for prior learning is a rewarding process through which students, excuse me, document their learning experience to earn college credits. A portfolio is built by matching a college course within a declared Wiley University degree program with the knowledge and skills gained by professional or life experience. So that includes work, volunteerism, independent self-directed study, travel, military, whatever the case may be. In awarding credit for prior learning, such non-traditional learning, the university will review and evaluate documents such as certificates, publications, test scores, licenses, job performance appraisals, and the like, and award credit if the assessment identifies the learning as credible, relevant, and college level. So basically, this is your general definition of what credit for prior learning is. You can screenshot this. We are going to send a copy of the PowerPoint as well as the recording to you. But for those of you who want to be proactive, you can go ahead and screenshot that understanding of exactly what credit for prior learning is. So to make a long story short, credit for prior learning uses your life experience and your work experience to go towards your college degree. The benefits of credit for prior learning are summarized into three categories. The first benefit of credit for prior learning is that it provides an opportunity to acquire college credits based on work-life experience, which we just explained. Number two, it reduces the amount of time required to earn a degree by up to 1 academic year. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the latter end of the presentation. But basically, you have the ability to earn up to 24 semester credit hours via credit for prior learning, which of course 24 semester credit hours is typically broken down into 2 semesters where you typically take 12 credits per semester, which is the equivalent of 1 academic year minus summer school. So when you think about that, just consider the fact that if you're in a 2-year program, by utilizing and taking advantage of credit for prior learning, you can cut that program down into 1 year. For those who are in a 4-year program, you can cut that reprogram down into 3 years simply by utilizing credit for prior learning. And then finally, there's the cost perspective. The cost perspective is that credit for prior learning significantly reduces the overall cost of your education. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when I get into the cost breakdown, but nevertheless, just to give you a simple overview of the cost, any course that you successfully petition out of through credit for prior learning, rather than paying the full tuition for that course, you will pay it at a reduced rate, which is going to almost reduce your tuition, at least for that course, by almost 70 to 75%. So it's basically becomes a de facto scholarship when you really look at it, if you're successful in applying for it and petitioning. So how does credit for prior learning work? Credit for prior learning begins with the student once you enroll in Wiley University. So for those of you who are here and you're already enrolled, you have your schedule, things of that nature, you're ready to roll. If you're watching this, if you're on with us tonight and you haven't applied at Wiley, or you haven't been admitted yet, that's going to be your first step. First step is, of course, to get enrolled into your particular degree program and identify which possible courses that you believe in petition out of based on your work experience. And you'll do that by using the degree plan, which I'll show you. I'll give you an example in just a moment. But the first thing you would do is identify possible courses using your degree plan. Once you identify which course you believe you can petition out of based on your work experience, you will submit an application for assessment and pay the applicable fees. There is a fee associated with the application, and there is a fee associated with the assessment. The reason there's a fee for the assessment is because the individuals that are certified to assess credit for prior learning, of course, it is not directly a part of their job. And so in order for us to compensate those individuals, there has to be an assessment fee. The third thing that will happen is you are enrolled in our course called Career and Portfolio Management. It's Management 3300. If you're on this call and you're an organizational management major, you will automatically take this course either way. If you're on and you are not an organizational management major, you will have to take this course, but you can use it as an elective on your degree plan. But in order for you to petition for credit for prior learning, you have to take this course, because it is this course that will teach you how to create your portfolio that will be used to assess your prior learning. Again, I'll show you an example of what that looks like in just a moment. So step one, identify which courses you want to try to petition out of. You can do up to 8 courses, which equals 24 credit hours. Number 2, you will submit your application for assessment and pay the fees. Number 3, you'll get enrolled in the Management 3300 Career and Portfolio course. Number 4, once you've successfully completed that course, it's a 5-week course. Once you successfully complete that course, which will teach you how to develop your portfolio for us to assess, you would then submit your portfolio to your individual advisor, which if you're organizational management, your advisor is Ms. Tanja Prudham. If you're criminal justice, your advisor is Minnie Murray. If you are interdisciplinary studies, for right now, your advisor is Dr. Brandon Keith Lacey Sr. And if you're religion, your advisor is Dr. Lacey. You submit your portfolio. Step 5, that portfolio is then assessed by one of our certified faculty members who are credentialed to assess credit for prior learning portfolio. So on Wiley University's campus, there's 3 individuals who have gone through the training to be able to assess credit for prior learning. That is myself, Dr. Tracy Andrus, and Dr. Sam Tabby. At the moment, we are working to get individuals certified, but at the moment, we are the three that can review your portfolio to determine whether or not your work experience or life experience lines up with the course that you're trying to petition out of. Once that portfolio is successfully assessed and one of the three of us deem it satisfactory that you can get course credit for that work experience, we will then send that portfolio to the registrar's office so they can add that course credit onto your course transcript. And it's really that simple. So these are the 6 steps that are involved in the credit for prior learning portfolio assessment. So if you want to screenshot this so you already have it, or if you want to wait till we send out the email with this information included, you're certainly welcome to do that. And these 6 steps, are what pretty much the process entails. Very, very straightforward. There's no games, no gimmicks. As long as you can prove that your work experience and your life experience lines up with that course material, then you'll get credit for the course. So let me do something real quick. I want to just give you a portfolio breakdown to show you how the portfolio is developed and how that process looks from point A to point B. So I'm going to stop share real quick and switch screens. All right, so this is an example portfolio, which is an example of what you would submit in order for us to assess to determine whether or not you can get course credit. Let me back up just a little bit, because the first thing that I want to do is I want to show you how you will identify a course that you would like to petition out of. So every course that you take is going to have a course syllabus, right? That's one of the first things your instructor should give you, or it should be located somewhere within your course shell on Canvas. So in every you take, regardless of whether you're trying to take it for course credit or not, every course will have a course syllabus. On every course syllabus, you'll see these 2 sections. You'll see a course description and you'll see course objectives. So for example, this course syllabus is for a world religion course that I teach here at Wiley University. So if there's a religion major who looks at this course syllabus and they want to determine whether or not this is a course that this material they've already learned it, they know it, whether it's from years of preaching and ministry or whatever the case may be. The 2 areas that they want to look are here: course description and course objectives. You want to know what the course description is, because the course description is going to tell you what that course is about. The course objectives are going to tell you everything that you are expected to know and learn once that course is completed. So if somebody like myself, who's been in ministry for 20 years, all of a sudden I go back to school to get my bachelor's degree in religion, and I find out I have to take religion. If I read this and I say to myself, well, these are things I already know. I've learned this, whether I've taken other courses in it, whether I've done my own self-study, whether there's some training in my church that I did. A lot of churches do Bible study and they talk about world religion, so this is stuff I already know. For example, identify the major texts in historical context, central religious figures, and ideas of the world's great religions. Well, after 20 years of ministry, I pretty much can answer this question without going through a 16-week class. And the more I read these different objectives, recognizing concepts and issues basic to the academic study, the more I read this, I'm saying to myself, I can probably petition out of this course. There's no point in me sitting 16 weeks to relearn this material when I already know it. So these 2 things tell me that there's a good chance if I go through the process, I'll probably get course credit for this course, right? So the next thing that I want to do, now that I've identified a course that I feel like I can petition out of, the next thing I want to do is I want to submit the application. Along with the emails that I send you guys with the recording and the PowerPoints, I'm going to go ahead and send you the application for Credit for Prior Learning, and it'll look like this. And you just fill this application out. You can submit it directly yourself, or you can submit it to your advisor, either one. If you submit it to your advisor, they'll make sure that I get it. And this section right here will indicate which courses you want to petition out of. So I'm going to write world religion here, and there are spaces for 4. So if you want to do more than 4, you can just get 2 forms. You only have to pay 1 application fee, no matter how many courses you try to petition out of. The application fee is $25. There's also a course assessment fee that's $125. So you will submit the $25 along with this petition. You don't pay the $125 until you're ready to submit your portfolio. So you don't have to pay the whole $150 up front. You can just pay the application fee. Again, no matter how many of these you submit, there's only 1 application fee. And then there's only 1 assessment fee. So we're not doing assessments per course. We're doing assessments per student, right? And so you pay the assessment fee when you are ready to turn in your portfolio. We will not do the assessment without the assessment fee. There's also a student acknowledgement form that you will submit along with your assessment, not with your application, but with your assessment. And this just signs off giving us permission to evaluate your portfolio, right? Once you've done those 2 things, and you successfully completed the Career and Portfolio Management course, which again is only a 5-week course. If you're an organizational management major, you have to take it anyway. So there's nothing lost there. If you're not an organizational management major, we will use that course and add it as one of your electives. So there's still no loss. At the end of your course, you will learn how to create this portfolio. What this portfolio will include is, number 1, a cover letter and a resume. Along with the cover letter and the resume, the cover letter just tells us what you're trying to do with this portfolio, which is to use it for course assessment, the same way you would create a course cover letter as if you were submitting that resume for a job. You would include a copy of the syllabus. So the same syllabus that you use to determine whether or not you wanted to petition for course credit, you will include that syllabus in your portfolio. For every learning objective in that syllabus, so remember these course objectives, for each one of these, you will create what's called a learning narrative. So you will write for each one of these a narrative on why it is and how it is you believe you've already obtained these objectives in your work experience. So on this syllabus, we have 6 course objectives, which means I should have 6 minimum 1-page narratives for this portfolio. All right. The more you can include, of course, we don't want you to ramble, but the more information you can include that's verifiable and substantial, the stronger your portfolio is. So you want to include 1 narrative for each learning objective. And as you see, this individual, there's an introduction as well. I forgot to mention the introduction. So there's an introduction that pretty much tells us an overview of your work experience. So all the work experience that you plan to include as an overview of your portfolio, you're going to include it here. And then after the introduction, you're going to go one by one of your learning narrative. So for example, this person is writing about the role of a supervisor. So if we go back to the beginning of this portfolio, we will see that one of the learning outcomes for this class, this person is trying to petition out of principles of supervision. So this is somebody who's been a supervisor before prior to coming to school. And so now they're trying to say, well, I've already been a supervisor for 10 years. I shouldn't have to take principles of supervision. let me petition out of it. And one of the first learning objectives is the role of a supervisor, as you can see here. So what he does is he writes a narrative here on the role of a supervisor and how his experience as a supervisor translates over to him understanding what a role of a supervisor is. And he goes one by one. For every learning objective, he has at least 1 page narrative. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So right here, we see formulating objectives, form plans, and assigning tasks. And we see that as the second learning outcome for this course. Formulate objectives, make action plans, and assign tasks. So I'm not going to go through each of them because this individual had to write 6. So you see 6 learning objectives. He's going to have 6 narratives on how his work experience covers that topic. The next thing that he's going to do is he is going to include, after he's done all of his narratives, he's going to write a conclusion summarizing everything that he just wrote. Then he's going to include letters of recommendation from his employers, right? So we have our cover letter, our resume, our introduction, a copy of the syllabus, then our introduction, a narrative for each learning objective. And once all of your learning objectives have been narrated, you create a conclusion. And then you want to get as many letters of recommendation from reputable people that can verify that work, right? So this letter of recommendation came from an individual, the individual that he served as a supervisor under, right? So everybody's, depending on what the class is, that's going to look different for different people. But it's going to be up to you to identify the right people that can verify your work experience or your life experience for that particular course. There is no limit to how many letters of recommendation you can get, but the more and the more reputable, the better. I wouldn't recommend family members for something like this because we're going to look at it and we're going to say, well, of course, a family member will recommend you because they want you to get the credit. We want it to be from somebody that's not necessarily a family member, unless that family member had a very intricate role in that particular aspect of your work experience or life. And the final thing that this person does is he includes his various certifications. So he includes a supervision certificate here. This is a Phi Theta Kappa, a copy of his Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, which shows some of his leadership capacity. This is a copy of some training that he did, the transcript from the training. Anything that you could submit as a certification, a certificate, barber's license, a cosmetologist license. Again, it all depends on the course. If you're a religion major, if you have a license, a certificate license, an elder's ordination, some type of training that you may have done at a conference, all those type of things, some awards that you won at work, you know, anything that ties directly to the life or work experience that you're trying to use to get credit for, you want to include it at the end of your portfolio. And then you would take that portfolio and again, submit it to your academic advisor, or you can send it directly to myself. All right. Once that is done, we will take it and we will use the following rubric to grade your portfolio. And so it's not us just sitting down saying yes or no. We use this to grade it and determine how many points you get for each section. And as long as you make a 20 or above as a score, we will then take your portfolio and pass it over to our registrar's office, and then we will award you course credit. The dean has to sign off on it. The registrar's office will sign off on it. The vice president of academic affairs will sign it. And then finally, our registrar will sign it. And it will show up on your transcript as credit for prior learning. And that's really how the entire process goes. Just to kind of reiterate the cost structure, the $25 application fee is paid up front. The $150 assessment. So I may have misspoke on that earlier. I think I said 125 early, but it's actually 150. So you're paying $175 total for the assessment. That's due with your portfolio submission. Now, I talked about discounted tuition, and this is the beautiful part of it, because any course that you petition out of for your credit for prior learning, you get that course at a discounted rate. And so you only pay $60 per credit hour for credit for prior learning, which typically comes out to $180 per three credit course. Now, for those of you who don't know, for the adult degree completion program, you typically pay somewhere around $1,200 for a course, right? So I want you to consider the financial ramifications of paying $1,200 for a course versus paying $180 for a course. I already got my degree, so I don't do a lot of math no more. But I'll let y'all do the math on that. And you can just imagine, how much money you can save over time by taking advantage of credit for prior learning. So when you take that 180, and let's say you're somebody who can maximize the full allotment of credit for prior learning, which again, you are allowed to petition out of up to 8 courses. So you take 8 and you multiply that by 180, you paid for 8 courses for almost what you would have paid for 1 course, assuming that you're successfully able to petition out of 8 courses. Not everybody is going to be able to do all 8, but I mean, to be able to get out of anything and speed your process up towards your degree is something that's substantial. Before I go into question and answer, I do want to reiterate that these fees, the application fee and the assessment fee, is non-refundable, right? So if you try to petition out of a course and you're unsuccessful, so let's say one of us look at your material and we decide that based upon this, or based on the rubric, it is determined that you do not get awarded credit for that course, you do not get the 175 back. So you want to be very mindful of that as you are doing this. You don't want to just randomly start trying to petition out of courses. You want to make sure that as you look at the syllabus and look at the course objectives, you really wholeheartedly and honestly believe that you could petition out of it. And if need be, you can always talk to one of us prior to doing it. I certainly don't mind sitting down with anybody and listening to your story, looking at your information and determining whether or not I believe it's worth exploring credit for prior learning. I can tell you whether or not it's a wise decision. I can tell you whether or not you probably won't be able to justify it. So I certainly don't mind doing that. But just keep in mind that all of these prices are non-refundable.